What's up, everybody? Mike and Adam with the Z-Man Show, finally coming at you with the new version of Zack Snyder's Justice League 2021. And let's just say that this movie was done justice. I mean, there was so much added content, which is kind of a plus and a minus because this is a 4-hour production. So we have to start this off by first giving you a little bit of bad news that it is 4 hours long. And Adam, I know it was taxing for you to kind of get through this one just because of the sheer length.
Yeah, and honestly, like I agree with your sentiment completely. It is a superior movie to the original theatrical cut. And one of the things you were saying is like it was supposed to be a mini series, and now it's not. So that's probably where some of the length comes from. But to me, particularly when you get to the epilogue, I think I was just kind of ready for the movie to be over, and it had me thinking, they did so much character development on so many different characters. And when we finally got through the entire movie, for the most part, it was more positive than negative. But I was left wondering, could some of this have been left out? Still a better movie, but I think the question's worth asking.
Absolutely. And for a little quick history segment, then we're going to keep it super short. It was supposed to be like a 4 to 6 part miniseries on HBO Max. Somewhere in January of 2021, Zack Snyder came forward and told everyone that no, it'll actually be a full release movie, if you will, except it's going to have parts to it, and like 7 parts. And I don't know if that's with or without the epilogue, but all the same, that's part of the 4 hours. And so when you're going into this, be mindful. If you're not one of those who can sit through a super long movie, then tackle this in like 3 or 4 parts. Watch an hour a night, and it'll be good. And you can literally pick up at the next part and feel maybe a bit refreshed. I mean, maybe you'll be a little superheroed out by a certain point. That's very possible too. But I know, Adam, like you were talking about, because I was mentioning how the final epilogue has some really cool alternate universe, what could happen type stuff because of a vision Batman had. And it's really worth the watch. But by the time you get to it, you may be so done with, you might just be like, okay, no, I saw what happened to Steppenwolf and them, and I'm just good. You're going to miss
out. That's where
I
was.
Yeah, so you're going to miss out on some. So on a quick little side note, maybe tackle it in pieces if you need to, and unless you just want to just knock it all out. And I did it in about 2-hour segments. And Adam, I think you did 2-hour segments too, right?
I did.
Okay, which still could be a lot. The 2-hour movie is a 2-hour movie, however you do it. But let's now start talking about some things that they did right with this movie. And first off, let's look at the villain. Let's look at Steppenwolf.
Yeah, Steppenwolf. So in the theatrical cut, to me, Steppenwolf was he was this big bad that it was very cliche. He was this big bad comic book villain that needed to be taken down. He talked immunity, mother boxes. He had no idea what he was talking about. He was cutting through Amazon pyramids. He was blowing stuff up, collecting stuff. In the new movie, they give him armor. His CGI armor looks more imposing. He sounds more imposing. They take the time to describe his backstory. He's actually a lackey of a character named Darkseid, who previously tried to invade Earth and failed. He's there for redemption, and they give just enough meat to what he's doing that he feels like a real villain and not just this comic book kind of cheesy villain that they need to chase down and beat. Such a good job with him.
It is so bad. And just so you guys know, Adam and I both rewatch, if you will, Justice League 2017, just to make sure that we were on key and make sure we weren't, making stuff up along the way. And trust me, guys, there are so many cringe-worthy moments. And after you watch this new version, if you're thinking, I don't really need to see it, I'm telling you, I think you're missing out on something here, because this movie could have been done so much better, and Zack Snyder came back to do this, and it cost a good 20 to 30 million for him to work this out. But they greenlit it, they did it, and it worked out really well. Steppenwolf was looking amazing, and again, that was one of my biggest pet peeves when I watched Justice League for the first time several years ago. I was just like, I don't care about this villain. It's like wherever he goes, he's squashing everything, and I feel like you can't do anything against him. And at least on this one, in the new version, like there were times where he was kind of getting his butt whooped as well, but he was still working out what he needed to do to progress his story and his mission for redemption. And we get a chance to see Darkseid, which is a character which they mentioned literally, I think, one time in the first version, 2017. And I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. I'm not a comic book reader. I need some info here, guys. Anything. and we get to see a cool background battle. Kind of felt like a little Lord of the Rings style, all the ages of men and elves and dwarves, except it's Amazons, it's Aquaman's people, and then the
Yep.
race of men all going at it, working together. Anyways, similarities, whatever. But you see some badass. Even the gods were there. We got to see some action from Zeus, and the dude. I mean, they show like maybe 5 seconds of him in the first one. They're showing some legit versions of him doing his lightning bolt stuff, and I thought it was very exciting. And when you add the music, which we'll talk a little bit more throughout as well, it was a very exciting scene. Very exciting.
Yeah, and kind of adding to several of the things you said. It was a long movie, but I honestly felt that Darkseid's additions weren't the things that I would look to cut if I was a director. I felt like
Yeah.
he wasn't there that much, so it's not like he was adding all that much time to the movie. And when he was there, it really helped flesh out who Steppenwolf was as this lackey of Darkseid. And yeah, I agree. The battle sequence was just the thing that this movie did so much better than the original theatrical cut is it set the scene. It laid the groundwork for what was happening. And that the initial battle sequence in the first movie just felt like a good parts version, like a highlight reel. And this one, they really show you, here's what this person tried to do, and here's how it went down. And I feel like by the time the plot starts unfolding, the extra time spent up front laying the groundwork really pays off.
It really does. And let's face it, backstory, storyline, it is the key to the movie. And they basically, that was the ultimate downfall of the 2017 Justice League. They raced through it. They took all this footage, a lot of great footage, and then by Plan 2, they had to reshoot a lot of stuff from a total director's different viewpoint, right? And we'll talk Joss Whedon in a little bit, and I know, Adam, you got some background on him too. It was the wrong mix. It was the wrong mix for the movie. Sure, he did Marvel stuff, but Marvel is not the DC universe. It just is not. And let's talk about that right quick while we're on there about Joss and how they brought him in with it.
Yeah, so at some point, the Warner Brothers executives over this movie decided that it was too long and it needed to be cut down to 2 hours. They hired Joss Whedon to come in as more or less a script doctor. And Whedon has some great projects. He did Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV. He's behind Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was associated with the first 2 Avengers movies. Yes. So he's got a good resume. He has a great track record, but he has a quippier, lighter style, which works well with Marvel, but I think DC tends to be darker and grittier. And I think he was probably not the right choice initially. And then when Zack Snyder rolls off because of the tragedy that happened with his daughter, Joss Whedon just starts reshooting things. And I remember reading that Christopher Nolan and Deborah Snyder, who's Zack Snyder's wife, told Zack not to watch the new movie because it was so different what came out in 2017 from what he originally directed.
And I quote, "It'll break your heart." That's what they said. It'll break your heart. And that's amazing to know that. And the fact that he went in, I almost think that would have made me have to watch it, just so I could be like, I will not do anything like this. But maybe it gives him more credit, too, that he was able to still do something so accomplishing with even now not having to see such an atrocity beforehand. But that's how some of this came to be. But as we continue to talk through, so let's talk about, think about Cyborg's apologies, and what they did to his character from the first Justice League to the Zack Snyder version. It's like night and day.
Yeah, in the first movie, he was really a side character, and to be fair, like the main Justice League characters, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman's up there too, and Green Lantern, who wasn't in this film. So it's not like he was ever really a staple. But I think the thing that they did in this new Justice League movie was they took the time to show who he was before he became Cyborg, the accident that made him the way he was, his father using the mother box, which is one of the big plot devices in this movie, to prevent Victor Stone, who becomes Cyborg, from dying. Like by the time he starts interacting with the Justice League, you know a lot more about who he is. And I think, Steppenwolf
Hmm.
probably benefited the most from the additional screen time. I think
Right.
Cyborg was a very close second.
Absolutely. And it also gave some more like severity to some of the things that happened throughout the movie. Now we will be talking some spoilers throughout a little bit. No, I'll try not to give anything too big away, but let's just say there's a big event that happens to someone really close to Cyborg as we move through this movie, and you really feel Cyborg's pain and what he's been going through as we find out again how he came to be, why he was almost dying, why his father had to use the box on him, why the box is even in his possession to begin with, as we are in the beginning of the movie. Because remember, the Amazons have the second box, and the Aquaman people have the third one, right? So,
Yep.
anyways, it just gave us that backstory to help us understand a little bit more about him. And also, it's kind of like Cyborg is, even though Batman is seeking everybody out, it's kind of like Cyborg's kind of been watching almost in the background a little bit. Like he's aware that Batman's looking for him. He's aware that there's things in motion here that, he's going to have to become a part of. But will he have the strength to do it? And obviously, watching the movie will help you figure that out. But a great job. I thought they gave him some great dialogue lines, much more meat, making him feel like more of an actual character as opposed to this little side person over here. Like, oh yeah, he's there. It just felt weird. I think they
Yeah.
didn't do him any justice in the first movie.
Agreed.
And even the father too, as they've kind of played him in, which we don't have to go on too much about him, but Silas, which is his father, we even get to see background on him a bit too, and how they're building that relationship as they move throughout the movie. So it was interesting. Why don't we talk about Batman and some of the other dialogue that we found they did a better job replacing that dialogue in the newer version?
So I'm gonna go into one of my favorite updated scenes in the new movie. Like, so at the very beginning in part one, Bruce Wayne goes out to find Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman. He finds him in this Icelandic village. That now this isn't technically dialogue, but I love the fact that while the opening credits are playing, they show him actually, traversing the snowy mountains to get
Yeah.
to this village.
Yeah.
And then when they get there, like he's trying to find this man who comes from the sea and provides fish, and he's listening to them speak, speak a foreign language, most likely an Icelandic language.
Yeah.
And they're kind of talking whether they can trust him or not. And the dialogue that happens in that initial sequence,
Hmm.
not only does it add to the movie, but there is a scene later on that is verbatim, almost identical in dialogue to the scene from the theatrical cut in 2017 that just carries so much more weight because they take an extra 5 minutes to really plant, what happened before that dialogue. And it just,
Right.
the extra time they took there makes the whole scene just make more sense.
It does. And as you watch it, you may feel like, "Oh, do we need that scene? Do we need that scene?" And maybe for a lot of them, maybe you didn't. But I'll tell you though, when you really put it together as a big compilation, it really gives the movie, it makes so much more sense, as you're watching this huge thing unfold. One of the big things, and this is a very small line, but there was just a lot of Batman lines that I just felt were just, it's like they were trying to make him a bit comical, but as we talk at him, he is not a comical kind of guy. I mean, he is very serious, he's very gritty, and there's a big task at hand, and he knows what he has to do. And so when I get to these scenes, and there's one when they're under the harbor and they're fighting against the parademons, and you're also fighting Steppenwolf, and he has to finally jump into his Nightcrawler big machine, right? And because he's just not strong enough to take these things on one-on-one. And he gets in there, and in the original version, he says something like, "Sorry guys, I didn't bring a sword," or something like that. And as I'm watching it, I'm just kind of like, "Batman, just get on with it. Just stop talking."
Yeah.
But in the newer one, he jumps in after kicking some decent butt. I mean, he's doing what he can, and I was appreciating that. You got to appreciate Batman for what he does bring to the table, and when he does work it out. But he gets in and he kind of looks up and he goes, "My turn," kind of feeling like my turn, assholes. And he just starts laying them out. And Diana even kind of looks over because he's helping her out, and it felt good. It was gritty. It just kind of like getting right into it. And they did that several times with Batman's character throughout. Also removing some of that needless banter between him and Diana in the original version, where they're kind of, because he mentions Steve Trevor, and she gets pissed at him, and so she kind of knocks him up against. It's just like little things. I'm just kind of like, you guys know what's at hand here. You know what you need to do. You need to come together and work this out. And yes, they were following a formula. Let's face it, just like the Avengers, but it doesn't work. the Avengers, it kind of made sense with all their super egos. And although
Right.
Batman probably has an ego, and even I'd say Aquaman in a way, I think he just has a bad attitude. I'm not so sure it's ego. I think he just has a bad attitude on everything. But whatever, he finally comes around. But they're just, it's not like Thor. It's not like the Hulk and Iron Man and these egocentric males that really get after with each other. So they tried to repeat it in the first Justice League, and I think that Snyder realized it wasn't working. It was just kind of cringy, and you're just kind of like, can we just get on with something else? And so they did. They removed him.
Yeah, and it kind of back to the point I had made earlier about Marvel Whedon's quippier, lighter approach really worked. I mean, this is the DC universe. It's darker, it's grittier, and I think Snyder's approach was more in line with
Yeah.
what the DC universe really went. And Batman is, like you said, he's a serious character. I appreciated his conversations with Alfred. Thankfully, were great in the first one too. I think Jeremy Irons Alfred is just fantastic. But
He's good. He's a good
but
actor.
like yeah, but everything he talked about was just on point. He wasn't trying to be this silly, comical, jokey Batman. Everything Bruce Wayne or Batman did was right down to business. He's like, things are going down. I need to get a team together to prevent this from happening. I'm staying on point. And it was cool to see him feel more like Batman, really.
Yes, and with the same sense, I think they even did some small adjustments to the Flash's character Barry, and he's meant to be a spaz, and he's kind of the dorky guy or whatever. Again, all very fine. This is his qualities, and we should appreciate him for what he does. And they give him some great moments in this movie that, let's face it, without him, Adam, I don't think they could have gotten it done. They would have been hosed. And I think those were wonderful additions. And in the same sense, I'm gonna let you kind of talk about it too. They removed some of his goofy banter, which it wasn't a lot. It was only a few lines, but I think they chose the right lines to remove because it just didn't bring out that laughter or that feeling like, yeah, that was right for that scene. I'm not gonna get into specifics, but you'll know what I mean when you see him. They feel like they tamed him down just enough to where he's still that kind of oddball, but yet likable.
Yeah, and I think he was comic relief in both versions, and with the theatrical cut trying to be a little quippier, like you said, there's more dialogue there. But I think that he had a larger presence in some of the earlier fights. Like there's a scene where they try and rescue some hostages from Steppenwolf. I think he plays a bigger role in that in the new Snyder cut than he does in the theatrical cut.
Yes.
And then there's also the end of the movie where there's something really, really bad happens, and really it's only the Flash that can make it right. And I liked the fact that they gave him that big moment. Like, even though he's this side character, he's kind of the comic relief, he still had his moment in the movie where it was good that he was there, and you see why he's in the Justice League. And I really appreciated that.
And I'm so glad they took the time in that final scene, and I'm not going to go into full detail. But to show the power of what this thing was going to do, because it literally tore through every single Justice League person. It didn't matter who they were. It obliterated life as it was. Yeah. And it finally sunk home. When I saw that, I was like, wow, oh my God, this is literally the worst thing that could happen. And you now understand what, even at the very end, why they were trying so hard to stop this thing, and again, they had talked about the severity throughout the movie. Again, it's a little bit of the backstory, but when you finally saw it rip through Superman and some of the others, I was just like, oh shit. This is pretty crazy. So it was a pretty intense scene for sure. Let's also talk about, I want to get into a bit of a Superman and Lois and his kind of return, because I don't know if we talked about it. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty on the first recording of this, so we had to redo a little bit of this part. But we wanted to talk about the beginning also, how it was such a great intro to the movie versus the original version. So in the original version, just a quick synopsis, Superman is on screen. Looks like somebody's interviewing him. He's on TV, but like a kid is asking him questions, and they were just kind of goofy questions. And the dialogue, it didn't really make me like scream out Superman hero. It just kind of just like, right, it's just Superman like a day. But when they redid it with this one, and they show him, and I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about it, they show him getting speared by that kryptonite spear, along with I forget the monster's name that he fought. That Doomsday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Um, and he is screaming, and it's sending out these echoey beacons, and he just and by the way, it was drawn out like crazy, but at least it showed the severity of what was happening, and then they show all these great scenes afterwards to his memory. So, Adam, what did you think about those two scenes compared?
So, so yeah, I didn't dislike the phone scene in the original one. So it's the original theatrical cut has a kid interviewing Superman, and it did a little bit to show that, hey, this guy was cool and people liked him, and now he's gone. But I feel like in the updated Snyder cut, what they really did is they slowed it down and they show the reactions on, Diana's and Batman's face while Superman is dying. And I think it's not even just a reminder of how we got here, but just really taking the time to show how it's impacting the other characters in the movie. And it's not the only time they do it. There are subtle things throughout the movie where characters mention his passing. And but like that initial opening sequence really hammers it home. And also another thing that it does really well is it shows the mother boxes respond to Superman dying. Like, hey, these things were afraid of Superman, and now he's gone, and now things can start happening. Like, it really hammered home why it's so important that he's gone.
Yeah, you're right. They were afraid to come. Well, Darkseid and I guess Steppenwolf, they didn't want to, I guess, mess with Superman, but now he's gone. It's game on, right? Again, setting, putting the backstory in. That's good stuff. And the music that they chose. So Danny Elfman did the original music in the first Justice League 2017. He's an accomplished composer. He's awesome. No problem. Unfortunately, though, I just didn't enjoy the score in the first movie. There were moments, okay, but then there's others I'm just like, whatever. I loved how they brought back the original score from Hans Zimmer from Man of Steel for those empathy moments when we're thinking about Superman, and it just really hit home, and it made me feel like I should be calm now. I should be feeling bad for Lois or for Superman or for Martha. I mean, it made sense. And even when he was kind of coming back to be, they kind of started kind of upping the music a bit to more of the heart pounding stuff. Anyways, they did a great job with that. Also, and we talked about it too, Adam, I'll let you, mixing the characters when it's kind of like their time to kick butt, right?
Yeah, so, to piggyback about what you were saying is when Superman has his moments when he's learning, they play the Man of Steel soundtrack. When the Justice League entourage is fighting earlier in the movie, and like Wonder Woman steps up and she's going to start fighting, you hear her theme song playing in the background. It just gets you pumped. I mean, like they did such a great job with the songs in this movie, and just mixing and matching, bringing in old stuff, and then even the new stuff. There was it had a gritty, dark tone to it that really added to the movie. And I agree, from a cinematography perspective, the music was fantastic.
And you know what's interesting enough, and I don't usually get this with many movies. Now, mind you, I was doing a little bit of painting while I was watching the movie, but I was mostly watching because I knew I had to pay attention. But like, there's so much that went on in that movie. I'm almost a little intrigued to go and watch it again. And that says something for a 4-hour production. And by the way, I don't gotta watch it all at once. I can literally watch one part a night and then pick right back up because I already saw it once.
Sure.
But I think I'm still gonna find some stuff that I maybe kind of glazed over in the first one because there was a lot going on. But that should say something to a movie that long that you might be like, I might actually watch that again. I'm telling you, Adam, I don't think, other than I just had to rewatch it for this review, I don't think I am going to ever go back to Justice League 2017 again. I don't think there's any reason to.
I agree with that. It's just, even if you liked the original version, and because quite frankly, we're all entitled to our own opinions, it's just a hard sell for me why it's better. It's a stylistic clash. It just seems like a comedy of errors, like just a lot of last minute decisions that really drug the movie into the ground. And it's okay to like it, but when you most people are gonna think the new one's better. There are gonna be exceptions, but most people, myself included, the new one's better. The Snyder Cut is a better film. It is not a perfect film, but it is definitely a better watch.
Yeah, I think even Joss probably even knows, and I think even WB execs even know what happened. And by the way, maybe they were prepared for it. Maybe they knew, hey, this is the bullet we're gonna have to bite to get this
Maybe.
thing launched. Because what else are you gonna do? I mean, sure, it could have gotten somebody else, but who knows what they would have done? You never know. It's
Yeah.
hindsight, right? You can't ever get to it. So let's talk about one of the other main things, and I want to talk about just the Amazons and giving them some more robust viewing in this new version.
So yeah, in the theatrical cut, the Amazons just felt like another group of people who got cut down by Steppenwolf on the way to getting what he wants.
Yes.
In this version, like as the he goes after the Amazon mother box first, and while he's doing it, like the Amazons are poised. They know something's coming. They're ready to defend it,
It's got that
and they
crack
really
in it, right?
yeah, and they really just take the time to not only draw out the action scenes and really show the Amazons pushing back against him,
Yeah.
but also just like showing showing some of the deaths of the Amazons, showing the drawing out the scenes of them. Every little piece of information they added in the scenes that were new
Yes.
made the Amazons look more powerful and made Steppenwolf look that much more imposing. And to me,
Yeah.
they went from a group of people who just got rolled over to a strong warrior race, which is what they're supposed to be, who
Yes.
fought and fought and fought until he was just not there to fight anymore.
Right. There were just it was just little seconds of footage here and there, but I'll tell you, drawing that battle scene out really gave it some depth and really was showing the queen and her sacrifice that she knew she was going to have to trap her women, her people in that temple to stop him and from getting this thing, not knowing obviously he has other powers, being able to portal around, stuff like that. Maybe a little too OP, but hey, this is the dimension we find ourselves in. And when that whole temple finally collapses in the new version into the water, what a scene, Adam. I mean, it was just damn exciting, but yet they still got out. Hey, we knew it was going to happen, but at least it was so exciting versus the original version where he literally takes his axe and does like this crisscross slice through a huge old piece of stone and then just kind of barrels through it. And I'm just thinking to myself, guys, I mean, I have a feeling the Amazon women here were smart enough to know that if it's that easy to bust out, then maybe it's not going to matter that we go through all this, I mean, it was little moments. Does that ruin a movie? Of course it doesn't ruin a movie, but does it ruin the experience? I would argue yes. I argue big time yes.
Cheapens the scene for sure.
And it just kind of makes them look like a bunch of incompetent warriors, and whether it be women or men, I don't give a crap. But the fact that they were showing these women, and man, they're badass. I mean, they're not Diana, but woo, these guys work it out, and it was great seeing it all come to be. And Steppenwolf again showing his ferocity and just his relentless pursuit because he's on a mission, and you understand why he's on that mission. It just blended it all so well together. And guys, there's not a whole lot. I mean, we talked through a lot of different pieces here, but there was obviously a lot more character development. There was boosting up the villain, adding some extra pieces of battle scenes and backstory. It was really just an overall better experience, and I feel good for Zack because at least he got to do what he set out to do. I mean, that's got to be so damn rewarding, right, Adam?
Right, and there's questions about what his involvement in the DC extended universe is going to be moving forward. So if he does go out on this, he goes out on a high note. This was, DC movies have been hit or miss, and this was a good DC movie. So I'm with you, man. Like I said, a little too long, but for the most part, what they added, it either improved it or it didn't make it worse at a minimum. Most of it was an improvement. Solid movie. If you're a comic book fan, or even not, give it a watch. Give it a watch.
Absolutely. So we hope you guys enjoyed this talk. I know we went a little bit longer, but this was, I mean, to go a 30-minute talk on a movie that's 4 hours long, I mean, it's quite the investment. But guys, I really did enjoy it, and especially coming from a movie where I had written it off. I was just like, I'm good, And Adam, I think this was your first time actually watching even Justice League 17, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so you had a chance to see it a little bit more fresh, but I mean, maybe that gives you all the more perspective not to be so one-sided, because from my perspective, I feel one-sided. I feel like I've had time to let it sink and burn in and literally be like, no, I refuse, but good for them. So I hope we see more of Zack. I'm telling you, go back to that last act that's in that movie. They show you this alternate universe of what could be, and it was an eye opener to see some things that, oh man, we don't want it to go down that path, because if it does, watch out. And it really does. It leaves some possible. I mean, with some of the X-Men movies, Adam, they did some time traveling, and kind of showing what would happen if, I think, Apocalypse took over, or I can't remember what some of the villains were at the time, but basically it showed some really nasty things happening to all our heroes, a lot of them being killed off and so forth. And let's just say it's not much different in this version as well, and it really opens your eyes to some of the characters. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed it. This is Mike and Adam with the Z-Man Show. Come out every Wednesday and watch our content. We will be picking out another wonderful movie for next week. I think we're eyeing 1917, which I know, we're almost a year and a half, almost two after the release, but we put it on the shelves and we just never saw it. But we're ready to watch it and ready to give it a good review and a good watching. So make sure to come out and check that out. Sundays for Walking Dead and everything else. And other than that, we will see you at the next review.
See you next time, guys.